All right. Good evening. Welcome to the February 24th Special Planning Commission meeting. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting with a call to order. But before we do that, let me remind all public that would like to comment to email at planning@cityoflaverne.org. That's planning@cityoflaverne.org. And Natalie, if you could go ahead and, I'm going to call to order and then we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Sorry. Everybody, please place your hand on your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, now Natalie, would you mind calling roll?
Commissioner Allison?
I'm here.
Commissioner May?
Here.
Commissioner Lord?
Present.
Chairperson Simonson?
Here.
And Commissioner Allred is not present.
All right, thank you, Natalie. We're going to move on to public comment. This is the time set aside for anyone wishing to address the Planning Commission on items not listed in any place on this agenda. California law does not allow the Planning Commission to take action in response to your statements at this meeting. Your concerns may be referred to staff or set for a hearing at a later date. Eric, are there any emails or comments that you know of for this public comment portion?
We have not received any.
Okay, let's go ahead and give it about 30 seconds or so to see if anything comes in. Okay, nothing in?
Nothing in.
Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and close the public comment and move to approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 13th, 2021?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for January's meeting.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And thank you very much. Okay, let's go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to be bringing in a lot of people to the room, so if you just hold on 1 second till they're all in to the meeting room before we go to the next item, please.
Absolutely, no problem at all.
It appears that everybody has connected, so I think we can move forward.
Okay, as we close the approval of minutes, we're going to go ahead and open up the public hearings. We'll begin with resolution number 1270. And Eric, is there anything you'd like to add?
I would just like to add that during today and the past couple of days since the agenda was prepared, the commission's been receiving emails from staff with the additional comments that have been submitted to us. And so those have all been forwarded to the commission. So they've had an opportunity to read those. And that we do at this time have 6 people who wish to be called on this item during the public comment period. But otherwise, Candace will have a report and we'll be going to a screen share for a slideshow. After Candace's report, the applicant would also like to prepare present a presentation to the commission before public comment.
Understood. Appreciate it. Let's go ahead and move on with Candace. Do you have your presentation?
Yes. Good evening, planning commissioners. I think Eric's starting the screen share. Okay.
Oops, sorry. Oh my God. Sorry. One
Okay.
second. Where's it? Well, you guys can all see this screen okay?
Yeah.
For some reason, it's not going to full screen. All right, so Candace, we'll just start with this if that's okay.
Okay. So the applicant, Matt Waken with MJW Investments, is proposing to develop 42 single-family homes at 2820 Amherst Street and a portion of the adjacent parcel, both city-owned properties. In the beginning of 2018, the City Council conducted a fiscal sustainability study to address increasing costs. Through this process, Council agreed to sell a portion of the land that the city owns for the Amherst Water Treatment Facility, specifically the portions of the site that are currently leased to a commercial nursery. In October of 2018, the city conducted an appraisal of the property and presented the appraisal to the council 2 months later. In March of 2019, the city released an RFP to residential developers, with the city receiving 5 proposals. After reviewing the proposals, the council elected to proceed with MJW Investments Group on entering a purchase and sale agreement for the 5.6 acres of land. Next slide. This slide has been added to address some questions that have been raised regarding whether there was enough time to review the project and if staff was following the rules of CEQA and noticing requirements. So I'll touch on some of the process now, and I may mention them in more detail further on in the presentation. But this shows the sequence of events that happened since the project application was filed on February 24th, 2020 to today, so exactly 1 year time. The left side of the column shows the action that was taken, and the right side lists what is required. A letter was mailed out March 3rd of 2020 to residents up to 800 feet from the project site, inviting them to attend a public workshop that was supposed to take place on March 18th. However, due to the state and county order prohibiting gatherings, another letter was then sent on March 12th, canceling this workshop. Staff waited about 6 months, hoping that we would be able to host this public workshop with the neighborhood. But as you all know, the order did not change and is still in effect. Therefore, without stalling the project any longer, the website was launched for the project on the city's website with a detailed video prepared by the developer, the full set of plans, and other facts regarding the proposed project details on October 1st of 2020. On the next day, a notice was distributed advertising the preparation of the EIR and soliciting public comments. A month later, staff summarized the comments received on the project and provided answers to those questions, all on this website that was created for the project. The response to comments was provided from the environmental consultant and included as part of the staff report and posted on the city's website. The project has also been advertised on different social media platforms, reaching at least 3,500 people. Therefore, all public outreach to the community was completed above and beyond the minimum requirements. Next. The next slide shows an aerial of the site. You can see the water treatment facility is right there on Amherst and Williams, and the proposed development site is where the West Covina Wholesale Nursery is located today. The next slide shows the 5.6 acres outlined in yellow, a little bit more zoomed in. And the next slide, so there are 5 applications that were required for this proposal, including a precise plan review, which is the design for the site plan, a tree removal for the protected deodar cedar that's on site today, a general plan amendment changing the site from low to medium density, a zone change to change the zoning from PR3D to a specific plan to adopt new development standards, a vesting tentative track map to create the individual lots, and the certification of the EIR. The next slides will talk about each individual application in a little more detail. This one is part of the precise plan application. This is the site plan that was proposed. Here's the proposed site plan showing the 42 homes on the 5.6 acres, 19 Plan 1s, 23 Plan 2s mixed throughout the site. And then the next slide will show a better visual of what the site is actually going to look like. The proposed project includes a circular interior private street with 2-story single-family homes. All of the homes will have private outdoor spaces, 2-car garages, driveways, and on-street parking with no overnight parking, just like the public streets that are surrounding the area, and open space. The homes range in size from about 2,000 to 2,400 square feet of living space with 2-car garages. Plan 1 is 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and Plan 2 is 4 bedrooms with 3 baths. There will also be a 14,000 square foot park provided at the north end of the project on Amherst, maintained by the HOA, but accessible by the public. Per the municipal code, single-family residential development does not require guest parking. However, the project's design allows for at least 4 off-street parking spaces per house. That's 2 spaces in the driveway and 2 spaces in their garage. And the private street within the development is designed to the standards of a typical public city street and is wide enough to accommodate parking on both sides of the street, providing about 40 additional parking spaces, which is twice as much as what would be required for guest parking if this was a multifamily development. The next slide shows the elevations that were proposed. There are 2 options, the Santa Barbara or Craftsman style architecture. The Santa Barbara elevation features light sand stucco, gable end vents, window sills, corbels, and Craftsman style. And the Craftsman style home features a light sand stucco, vertical board and bat, tapered columns with masonry base, and composite horizontal siding. The DRC approved the site plan and these elevations contingent on all other application approvals by the City Council. So this slide, sorry, that's the other elevation, the other Plan 2 and Plan 1, Santa Barbara Craftsman style. So this slide shows the zone change. The project site is currently zone planned residential, 3 detached units per acre. The applicant has proposed that the site be rezoned for a new specific plan, the Amherst specific plan, which would permit medium density residential, 8 units per acre. So you can see the existing zoning on the left and what is proposed on the right. The next slide shows a table that's taken directly from the proposed specific plan. The design standards would help ensure that the residential dwellings constructed would be compatible with the adjacent uses. So this chart shows the proposed development standards. Basically, minimum lot size, 3,350 square feet, 2-story max height, just like the surrounding neighborhood, 20-foot minimum setbacks for the driveway to ensure each house has a usable driveway to park the cars, 15-foot rear setback, 10-foot building separation, and a 50% lot coverage max. The next slide shows the general plan amendment. So the general plan currently designates the site as low density residential, 0 to 5 units per acre. The applicant is proposing to amend the general plan map to redesignate the site as medium density residential, 0 to 10 units per acre. The proposed project would be consistent with Land Use Element Policy 3.5 and implementation measures, as these policies and measures encourage creative developments that provide self-contained neighborhoods within walking distance of goods and services. The change to medium density residential is also consistent with the immediate adjacent properties to the east and south, which are also medium density residential designations. So again, existing on the left, proposed on the right. The vesting tentative tract map would allow for the 5.6 acre parcel of land to construct 42 homes to be sold as individual lots, along with common lots, the streets, and park area to be owned by the HOA. Each lot ranges in size from 3,400 square feet to about 7,000 square feet. The vesting tentative tract map prepared for the Amherst specific plan will be in accordance with Chapter 16 of the Laverne Municipal Code and the Subdivision Map Act, which requires approval by the City Council. The next slide talks about or shows you some of the surrounding land uses. As previously mentioned, the proposed development is compatible with the surrounding land uses. The adjacent property to the west and south is zoned mobile home park, and the properties to the north and east are single-family homes. This development will serve as a transition from the mobile home park zone to the single-family PR3D zone. There are also rear setbacks of at least 15 feet, as well as landscape buffers for the perimeter homes, making the expected impact to the adjacent homes minimal. The next slide talks about the environmental impact report that was prepared, the EIR. The city released an RFP for an independent environmental consultant to conduct an environmental review of the project according to CEQA. 4 proposals were received and Rincon consultants were selected by the city. Rincon completed an initial study that identified the need for an EIR. A notice of preparation of the EIR was released, soliciting comments on the proposal, and the draft EIR was released for public review and comments due on February 1st of 2021. Staff finds that with certain mitigation measures, the project will not have a significant impact on the environment, with the exception of traffic impacts related to VMT, which is vehicle miles traveled, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. But the mitigation measures included tribal monitoring, resource management, noise control, archaeological evaluation, and tree replacement requirements. So next we can talk a little bit about this VMT. The city adopted VMT thresholds for land use project screening, which can be used to screen out projects that are expected to generate low VMT out from a further transportation analysis. Based on the city's thresholds, projects generating less than 110 daily trips can be screened out. Since the project is projected to generate up to 300 new daily trips, it would not meet this criteria. The project would result in a VMT rate which exceeds the VMT threshold, and the impacts would not be mitigated to less than significant. Therefore, the project would result in significant and unavoidable impacts associated with the VMT analysis. With that said, the next slide, the city has historically used LOS, which is level of service, to determine traffic impacts. However, roadway capacity and operation, including LOS, is no longer a consideration for determination of significance and mitigation under CEQA. So the traffic impact analysis evaluated potential project-related traffic impacts at 7 key intersections and concluded that the project does not result in operational impacts related to LOS. According to the general plan, LOS-A threshold for a 2-lane road is 7,500 trips per day. This is based on a maximum of any 2-lane road. The EIR shows that Amherst between Bradford to Williams currently operates at 1,100 trips per day. The proposed project is projected to have an increase of 200 trips per day, increasing the daily trips to 1,300. According to the EIR, Amherst from Fruit to Bradford currently operates at 2,000 trips per day and will increase to 2,200 trips per day with the proposed project. Some other cities might use a threshold of LOS for a local road at 3,000 trips per day instead of the higher number. Therefore, with an increase of 200 trips per day, the project is far from meeting this sensitive threshold.
300 trips, correct?
Oh, sorry, yes, 300. Next slide. In addition, although not proposed as part of this project, the city has received scoping comments indicating support for and opposition to the reopening of Bodwin Street intersection at Williams Avenue. Based on the draft EIR, the project does not require the reopening of this intersection, and any consideration of the reopening would involve city council consideration outside of this proposed project. There is a city council meeting scheduled for March 1st to discuss this matter completely separate from this project. The municipal code requires that the city notice property owners within 500 feet of the subject property. Understanding that this project would have neighborhood interest, staff extended that notice up to 800 feet from the project site. There were additional residents beyond that 800 feet that had expressed interest in the project, and they were also added to the mailing list and were notified. As mentioned before, the city was prepared to have an in-person workshop with the public, but as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, these types of meetings were not, and are still not, allowed to occur under the state and county orders. As an alternative, staff created a dedicated webpage on the City of La Verne website. Staff received comments regarding the project during the EIR comment period, which ended on February 1st, and the response to those comments from the environmental consultant are provided as attachment G within the final environmental impact report for your review. All comments received after February 1st, 2021 are also included as part of attachment F. There were also about 20 comments received since February 18th, since you received the Planning Commission report, and those were also sent to each planning commissioner before this meeting for your review. And with all of that said, staff and the Development Review Committee recommend Planning Commission recommend approval to the City Council for case numbers 18-20 TTM, 20-20 ZC, 109-20 SP, and 19-20 GPA with the adoption of resolution number 1720 based on this staff report and the attached conditions of approval. Now the applicant, Matt Waken, would like to share with you his short presentation, and after that, I am happy to answer any questions that you may have of staff.
Thank you, Candace. I appreciate the presentation and the clarifications. If the applicant would like to say something, now's the time.
I would. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. It's great to be here tonight, and thank you for your consideration on this project. We've worked really hard over the past 15 months with the city staff in designing a project that we think is going to be great for the community of La Verne. I want to start off by thanking Candace for her presentation. I have to say that working with Bob and Eric and Candace has been a pleasure over the last 15 months. You have a great staff in the city of La Verne. They're very knowledgeable, they're fair, they're reasonable, and they work really hard to get projects to this point. So I prepared a short PowerPoint that I wanted to present to the Planning Commission. I think Eric's going to pull that up. So I can just run through it.
You should see it on your screen now, Matt. Do you not?
I don't see it. I still see Candace's recommendation page.
All right, make sure. All right. Okay, hold on one sec.
There we go. You can go to slide 2.
Okay, one sec. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. So just briefly, we've been developing residential projects in the San Gabriel Valley, LA County, and Orange County for the past 25 years. Particularly in the last 10 years, we've completed approximately 4,000 infill housing units in Southern California, with a focus on the East and West San Gabriel Valley. I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley, and I've focused a lot of my development along the 210 corridor. And over the last 5 years, we've completed projects in Arcadia, Monrovia, Duarte, Glendora, Upland, San Dimas, and Whittier. So we focus on this type of infill housing, family-oriented housing, and it's been what we've been working on primarily over the last 10 years. We can go to the next slide. This just briefly shows some of the projects we've done in Pomona, San Dimas, Whittier. We can move on. So you've seen the site plan, and Candace described it to you. We became really interested in this site back in 2019. The first thing that we did was a very detailed market analysis for the project, as we always do, to try to determine what the best type of housing was going to be for this project. And we've determined that what we're presenting to you tonight is really the highest and best use for this property. As Candace noted, we have 42 lots, two-story product, a design that's commensurate with the neighborhood, and we have unit sizes that range from 2,000 square feet to 2,400 square feet. And that's really important. And I'm gonna come back to that when we get to the next slide. But the target pricing on this, which is also very important, is between $700,000 and $800,000 per unit. We can go on. So this is, the compatibility map, which when you look at zoning, whenever I take an approach to zoning, and I'm always looking at sites to develop and to lay out with a track map, we look at the site in zones, just like the city does. The city has zoning maps and they have certain areas they zone. And everything's laid out basically in quadrants. And you look for lines of demarcation. And so this project is bordered by Claremont to the east, Amherst to the north, really Foothill to the south, and you could say Bradford to the west, or you could even move further toward Fruit Street. But when you look at the zoning in this area, you've got 8 units per acre on the mobile home park to the south. Traveling further, you even move up toward 22 plus per acre along Foothill. So this really squares off this quadrant, and this design and this density is really quite compatible with what you have in the area. And what's also really important is when you look at the average home sizes within this area, and you've got over 320 homes that I surveyed, the average home size is approximately 2,100 square feet. And my average home size is 2,200 square feet. Homes in this area range from 700 feet to 4,700 feet. But I wanted to stay well within the average so I could keep to a certain price point, which I will talk about further on the next slide. But my home sizes and my lot sizes are really quite compatible with the neighborhood surrounding. We can move on to the next one. And again, this is really, I can't tell you how many people I work with and I talk to that are of a first-time home buyer age or category that want to acquire a home and are unable to do so in Los Angeles, Orange County. So many people have been priced out. I mean, it's no surprise you've got a lot of people that are moving to other states throughout Southern California, but definitely a lot of the millennials are having to move out east. And this is a problem for cities because cities are losing their base and a lot of the communities are starting to age out. With Laverne specifically, the numbers are that Laverne has a significantly lower share of millennials at 23% relative to this area of the East San Gabriel Valley at 27. They have a significantly higher median age at 44 years old versus 36 for the East San Gabriel Valley. Another important factor is over 9,000 workers, which put up the primary number of jobs in the city of Laverne, live outside of the city of Laverne. And 26% of those are 29 or younger, and 50% almost are 30 to 54 years old. And that's the category that we're trying to capture. And that's the category that is really critical for the lifeblood of the city. And so we think that this project positions the city with attainable priced housing projects, and it allows people within the community, within the workforce housing, young families, young professionals, teachers, first responders, to be able to acquire these homes and become a part of the community. And it's so important. I mean, it's important for the schools. It's important for the businesses. It's important for the sports, the youth sports. And, young families are the lifeblood. So that's really what we targeted here. And that's why the project of this size and design is so important. We can move on from there. Thank you. And this shows a rendering of the elevations for the project. We really tried to stay in character and form with Craftsman and Spanish Colonial that tie in with the city. We went through a number of different review processes with city staff and came up with this design, and we're very proud of it. So we can move on. They're distinctive and varied designs. We have single-story elements on the front of the homes, quality landscaping, enhanced materials throughout, side and rear yards, and a number of renewable energy features. We can move on. And then, this is, again, one of the key parts of the design of the project. And I have to step back for a second. This project was quite challenging from a civil engineering standpoint. Believe it or not, the topography of that site from Amherst to the south portion of the south property line of the site, that site drops 20 feet in elevation going from Amherst to the south. And that created a number of challenges from a grading standpoint, a retaining standpoint, a utility design standpoint. But one of the things we started with from the beginning was we felt we wanted to provide the project itself and the community around it with a public amenity. And so we designed a 1/4 acre pocket park, which is going to be open for the community to use. It's going to have a fire pit with lounge seating, a wood structure. It's going to have 2 built-in barbecues. It's going to have picnic tables, benches, bicycle racks, a little dog station so residents can walk their dogs there. And that's something this project's going to provide that the HOA is going to manage and maintain, but the community will get to have the benefits of that. So we wanted that there. And in addition, that really creates a very nice entrance to the project and almost a buffer to the project because it's the primary feature along Amherst. So we can move on from there. And this just shows an image of the park and some of the features of it. And then the last slide that I have is just really sort of an evening slide of what the community will look like. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Eric. And what the community will look like. And again, we feel that this design and this community is going to be an incredible asset to the community and bring what is really important. So many developers today will look to maximize the FAR and the square footage of their homes in an effort to maximize pricing on the homes. And they price themselves out of the market. And there have been a number of projects one in Laverne and in Glendora and another one in San Dimas, where developers went for a smaller lot format, but increased the home sizes and FAR in the homes to a point where the prices went to over $1 million a unit. And those projects simply were not successful. And they were selling at a rate of maybe 1 unit per month, which was very slow. So we think that we're at the perfect time to provide family housing for the community. And we think this is a great project and will be a great asset to the community. So I appreciate your consideration. I have 2 additional slides that I'm going to let Larry Cosmont present that are just going to discuss a little bit of information regarding housing element numbers, RHNA numbers that are kind of important as it pertains to this project. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it. And I'm here to answer any questions, and I have my whole team here to answer any questions that you guys may have of us, and we're happy to do that. So thank you. Larry?
Thanks, Matt. Larry Cosmont, good evening to the Planning Commission and members of the city staff. I would echo Matt's comments. Working with the city staff is just a great experience. And the city of Laverne is really a terrific community. We don't have to tell you that. This presentation that Matt and his team has put together really is emblematic of the kind of thoughtful process that we went through to get the right site fit, the right quality, the right product to match to a very compatible audience with Laverne. And in fact, the state seems to be peering over the shoulders of all the communities. I think all of us in the planning business, planning commissioners and staff, and all of us realize that there are regional housing needs assessment allocations that are being imposed on the state. The state has declared a housing shortage, which that's not a secret. And the categories of units in front of you are those units that are assigned to Laverne to produce in this next RHNA round beginning in the fall. And so we know that every unit counts. I mean, that's the point here. You can provide 42 quality above moderate income units and get credit for that against the state requirements. Now, the state's not going to stop coming, in my view. I'm a former city manager, CD director. We've been doing this a long time. And you may know that the governor has proposed a housing enforcement unit as part of the budget for this year. And I think it gets approved because they're very serious about pushing the pedal to the metal on affordable housing and higher density housing. And so to that extent, I don't think the future is good in terms of product mixes for many, what I would call suburban communities like Laverne. To the extent that sites don't get developed now, I think the rules would just keep getting more stringent. In fact, let's go to the next slide. We'll talk about in summary, what we had looked at creating a really attractive residential community pocket. But make no mistake about it, this is 100% market rate housing. It's all single family homes. They're not condominiums. We haven't stacked the density at that level, but we have created a good situation where we can get a lot of credit for working families who need to buy and want to own a unit. In addition, we try to minimize the impact on the community by providing a very visible and usable park. Actually, that's what you'll see along Amherst. When you drive, you won't really see units, you'll see a park, and it's paid for by this project. And there are a number of physical benefits that the city receives. The one-time property sales, as you know, this is a property that was put up for sale by the city. It started in 2018 and has taken a while to get through the process. So this parcel and this project, no secret whatsoever. This has been going on for quite a while. In addition to the sale proceeds, you're going to get the documentary transfer tax to the general fund from the initial home sales of about $17,000, annual property tax revenue in the range of $80,000, and you'll have 42 households buying goods. And at Cosmont, we estimate that as around $7,500 in annual sales tax. It all counts. You'll create some jobs. You'll have construction wages, almost 20 million. I think the point is that this, to me, as I view this project, is the right project, the right fit, and the right location. It works well for Laverne, both economically. It lets them comply with, I think, the most compatible component of the affordable housing laws that are facing the city. And make no mistake about it, if this goes back into the hopper, under these new rules going forward, the city would be required to shop the site to low-income affordable housing developers. That's not an opinion as to what's valuable or not. It's just the reality is that site could go to all affordable housing or a portion of affordable housing. Either way, you're going to go through that drill to see how much you end up with at that level. In comparison, I think you have a well-conceived project that delivers all of the key high points for this neighborhood: compatibility, economic viability, families that are entirely will fit within the neighborhood and the construct of Laverne, and allow the city to move forward and dispose of the site, which it is required to do by law. So we hope, we are encouraged that all the work with staff, with the community, has really produced a project that has the right tone, the right balance, the right mix, the right appearance, the right amenities, and gets you a fully amenitized market rate, 100% market rate housing project. Thank you very much.
Larry, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Matt, thank you.
Thank you.
Second there. Bear with me 1 second. We had a couple additional comments come in while you were speaking. So, all right. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and before we go to any questions or comments from the Planning Commission, we're going to go ahead and open up public comment. I've been informed from Eric, there's 6. In interest of time, I ask anybody looking to comment to try to keep your comments straightforward, make your points, and be respectful of everybody's time. That being said, we will listen to everything that needs to be said because we are very interested in hearing what the community has to say. Eric?
Yes, 1 second, just bear with us. There's a little lag while we get the people on the phone.
Hi, Sue. It's Natalie calling from City of Laverne Planning Department. Hi. In just a moment, I'm going to connect you. But if I can please have you mute your YouTube. If you can mute your YouTube if you're watching live. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. In just 1 moment, I'll connect you. Sue, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. You're all set to speak.
Okay, ready?
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to share my concerns, those being the proposed project's impact on traffic and the rezoning to medium density. On zoning and density, number one, the switch from the original 6 units per acre to 8 units is a 27% increase, not compatible with surrounding single-family homes. Number two, developer states in proposal that the density is in keeping with the neighborhood as the adjacent mobile home park is zoned medium density. Well, those are single-story, smaller mobile units, not newly constructed 2-story Craftsman or Santa Barbara style homes, thus not a fair comparison. Number three, developer says the project will attract teachers, firefighters, etc. I disagree. I am a teacher and it is not attractive. New family home buyers want space, not density, especially during a pandemic. Number four, 5 to 6 units per acre would be 33 homes as originally proposed and might garner resident support. Taking out the park or common area could achieve this. 2 barbecues for 168 residents is not feasible anyway. On traffic, the ERI states, and I quote, the project would have significant and unavoidable impact to transportation related to vehicle miles traveled. Number one, the proposed 8 units per acre, 42 units, puts a minimum of 84 drivers on Amherst and nearby streets. Number two, proposal says it will increase the daily vehicle trips by only 200. If you do the math, 2 drivers per 42 households, 6 trips per day, moderate, equals 504 additional trips. Number three, Amherst is already heavily used as a main shortcut route to the 210 freeway. 84 more drivers could impede neighboring residents exiting their own streets. Number four, the new building project underway on Gary Avenue will yield 647 new units. This will also greatly impact traffic on Foothill and neighboring area, specifically Williams and Amherst Street as route to the 210 freeway. Summation. We want to support a project that is complement to the neighborhood, not a detriment, driving home prices down and traffic congestion up. Please delay action until residents have had opportunity to speak face-to-face, a la social distancing protocols, with the developer and city officials. We hope that Laverne city officials uphold and embrace the notion of neighborhood sovereignty. Matthew Waken, developer, should not dictate the future of our residents. He can develop it with respect without profit in mind. I end with a quote by Mike McGovern. With increasing population density, land is scarce, water is scarce, resources are scarce, so people become the liability. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Natalie, would you mind having them state their name before they start speaking, just for everybody's benefit?
Sure. Hi, may I please speak with Anita? Hi, this is Natalie calling from City of Laverne. Hi, in just a moment, I'm going to connect you to the Planning Commission. But if I can first have you just mute your YouTube if you're watching live. Okay, thank you. And I'm going to connect you in just a moment. All right, Anita, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, can you please state your name for the Planning Commission?
Anita Beauchamp, I'm the resident at 2516 Amherst Street.
Okay, thank you. You
Good
can
evening, planning commission members and city staff. Our neighborhood must be the redheaded stepchild for the city of Laverne. This will be the 4th housing project to be constructed in this immediate neighborhood. First was the expansion of Amherst Street at Fruit, turning it into a 2-way street thus making it a continuous east-west thoroughfare, contributing to the speeding of vehicles traveling on Amherst. I realized it needed to be completed for the construction of the homes on Hartsford Ranch and Oakleaf, as well as the additional units on Bowden. Secondly, there were 5 additional units built north of the Mormon Church on Bradford, just north of Amherst. Then there was the Laverne Village, which included a zoning change for multi-use units rather than maintaining the existing low-density 3 dwelling units per acre. Are you aware under the LA County guidance, the minimum lot size for a planned residential area such as this is 5,000 square feet? The cumulative impact from several projects and the change of the environment, which results from the incremental impact of the project when added to other closely related past, present, and reasonably foreseeable future projects. Cumulative impacts are extremely important and absolutely necessary in preventing environmental damage while providing a decent home and satisfying living environment for every Californian, as stated by the Public Resources Code, Section 21002, subset G. In the state CEQA guidelines, Section 15355, it is defined. It can result from individually minor but collectively significant projects taking place over a period of time. This is exactly what has happened to our neighborhood. The residents are tired of forcibly assuming the responsibility of new housing projects being built. There is continued degradation with each and every housing project inserted into our small, already overcrowded neighborhood. Still, with these traffic problems, the residents are being more than fair in requesting the city only allow 33 homes to be constructed at this location. This number of houses was the original proposal from the developer. The additional 9 units was completely unnecessary, and I believe that it could be used for the overflow parking of the residents of those homes. I believe that the additional unit shows the greed and veracity by both the developer and the city. The VMT criteria now being used in CEQA analysis, as it is written, is to favor high density, more urban infill development, as Matt Waken spoke of infill development in his presentation. Even with this automatic bias to higher traffic volumes, the VMT for the project is still rated as significant impact, as Candace mentioned in her presentation and the previous caller. Amherst and Fruit Street intersection already have the lowest rating for traffic. This housing project will only further degrade and increase the speed of the deterioration of our neighborhood. The construction on the southwest corner of Gary Avenue, Bonita, and Pomona, which borders Laverne, is for 647 units. That's an additional 1,300 vehicles that will be utilizing the streets of our city, causing even further congestion. I realize governing isn't an easy task. It shouldn't be, otherwise anybody could do it. It's picking and choosing what is important to the residents and finding a happy medium from a financial standpoint and a liability standpoint. I would hate to see our city get to the point where petition signing is required for every agenda item to get city council and planning commission members to realize the resident voices not only need to be heard, but actually listened to. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Anita.
Hi, Jeff. It's Natalie calling from the City of Laverne. Hi. In just a moment, I'm going to connect you to the Planning Commission. If you're watching right now live, if you can please mute that first. If you're watching live, could you please mute it for me? Okay, great. Thank you. One moment. Okay, Jeff, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. If you can please state your name.
Yeah, this is Jeff Allred at 4204 Pepperdine Court. I'm at Amherst Street in Laverne.
Thank you. You can speak now.
Yes, members of the commission. I'm addressing the commission as a private citizen at this point. I have an obligation to recuse myself from participation as a member of the commission due to the proximity of my residence to the subject property, which is across the street. I respectfully request that the planning commission delay any action on this plan until after the residents of the neighborhood had the opportunity to meet with the developers and city staff. And on Monday evening of this week, Mr. Waken graciously expressed a willingness to a text message to meet with the neighborhood residents on a proposed project. We're confident that that can be accomplished even with this COVID, the COVID restrictions we have. They're lessening up. Schools are opening soon. If we need to meet outdoors, we can do so with social distancing. But it's really important to the residents that we have the opportunity for a face-to-face meeting to discuss many of these issues. For decades, the Planning Commission and the City Council of Luverne have embraced the value of neighborhood sovereignty, showing the utmost courtesy and respect of affected residents. As of yet, there have been no public meetings with city staff and the developer regarding this plan. So we look forward to that meeting with Mr. Waken soon. I think it's been stated by standards in the staff report. The current zoning of the property is the same as the neighborhood surrounding single-family residences. Okay, 3 units per acre. Originally, the developer's proposal to purchase the 5.6 property from the city included a preliminary plan to build 33 homes, which is 6 units per acre. The developer now proposes to construct 9 additional homes for a total of 42 units, which is 8 units per acre, an increase of 27% over that original preliminary plan of the proposal. A density that is not compatible with the surrounding single-family homes. Candace in her report said that this project is a transition from the existing residential to the more dense projects on Foothill Boulevard or even mobile home park. However, the 8 units per acre is the same as the mobile home park. So there's no transition. We're going from 3 units to immediately to 8, just like the mobile home park. We believe that's not compatible. In terms of the density. So we request then that the commission just back up for a brief time, brief temporary hiatus from any action at this point, to have this public meeting with the residents. It will be greatly appreciated by the residents. We appreciate Mr. Waken's gracious offer to do that, and we hope that the council will allow that to happen by delaying the action tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Hi, Matt. This is Natalie calling from City of Luverne. Hi, in just a moment, I'll be connecting you to the Planning Commission. If you're watching live, if I can please have you mute your YouTube feed. Okay, wonderful. Just one moment. Okay, Matt, if you can please state your name.
Yeah, my name is Matthew Uboko. I live on 4261 Pepperdine Court. My wife and I have lived in this home since 1983, 38 years ago. I remember when we had the drive-in theater there where Target is. Everything was very quiet and we loved the neighborhood. But I have several concerns that I would like to mention here, and some of them already mentioned by Jeff and Sue. Since we're talking about the high density of 8 units per acre, I did a calculation on the 19 units of Craftsman. It came up to about 45,000 some square foot, and the plan 123 units come up to about 46 or 46. Altogether, it's about 91,855. So my suggestion, thinking outside the box, is if you were to increase the footprint for 33 units, that will come up to about 2,783. And that's very doable. And in fact, if we go 35 units max, that would be 2,624 square foot. And that's probably very doable, but you're not even increasing more than 10%. And I believe all the buyers always outgrow where they move into, and they would love the extra space. Just ask any neighbors here, they wish they have some extra more square foot to their home. Second thing is the parking. I'm very concerned about daytime and nighttime parking, spilling over to Amherst, Pepperdine, Williams, Stone Meadows, and Bradford. Now, I do notice a sign that says citywide permit extension. Will this be extended to the Amherst residents then that live in the 42 unit proposal? If that's the case, parking can be a problem on the street. And I believe young family, as they grow, when the children start going to high school, they'll be driving their own truck or a car, and there will be more vehicles added to the street. Many years ago in our Pepperdine Fort, we had 19 kids, and now they're all gone, but the problem with parking is an issue. And so I'm very concerned about that. And the traffic and noise, I'm not sure who did the study, but I have walked the neighborhood, Boydon, Fruit, Amherst, and Williams twice a day for the last 2.5 years. I never saw anybody there metering or measuring traffic on whatever. So I don't know where that traffic report came from, but I think it's pretty obsolete. You need to do a brand new one. I'd be happy to sit out there and help you monitor it. There are a lot of vehicles going very fast, both Amherst and Boydon, and I'm very concerned about that. And I'd like to repeat what Jeff said. Let's back up a little bit and have the developer and city staff meet with the neighbors, the neighborhood residents here, and just have an open discussion, an honest discussion. And I think a lot of the ill will be mitigated, and perhaps we can have a good partnership. We are all for advancement. We should have a foot in the future, and we know where it's going. We're not trying to stop the development, but what we're saying is let's be more reasonable. Let's have an open discussion and just see where it goes. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Hi, Denise, it's Natalie Klein from City of Laverne. Hi. In just a moment, I'm going to connect you to the Planning Commission. If you're watching live, you can please mute. Okay, great. One moment. Okay, Denise, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, if you could please state your name.
My name is Denise Fisher, and I live on Amherst Street, actually just across the street from the Mormon Church.
Thank you.
What I was looking at is just really, we've had a lot of houses selling in our neighborhood recently, and I pulled up the last 8 houses or 7 houses, and the sale price range, the average was about $850,000 for our neighborhood. And the average lot size of those houses was 10,283 square feet for the lot. And the house size average was about 2,000 square feet. This project, it looks beautiful. I love the style of the houses. I just feel that there's way too many houses in that project to give somebody a big house on 3,500 square feet is like having 3 houses would fit on my lot on that size property. It's just too many. There's going to be too many cars. We already are inundated with cars on Amherst, just from people passing through from the new apartment complex that was built on the corner of Bradford and Foothill, and just
regular traffic throughout our neighborhood. And I don't think any of us really want to stop this project. It will be nice to have a completed neighborhood. However, it just needs to be lessened. And, even 33 houses seems like a lot on that property. A few years ago, there was a piece of property that was vacant for many years to the north side of the Mormon church. And that was 2.2 acres. And they built 3 houses on 2.2 acres. Those are beautiful sized houses. They all have nice sized yards. But it was 3 houses on 2.2, and now you want to put 42 houses on 5.6. The numbers, it just doesn't add up. And then to take into consideration lot size of the mobile home park, that's not apples for apples for our neighborhood. Our neighborhood are single family houses, not a 55 plus community of mobile homes that have their own entrance and their own little streets in there. That's their own little neighborhood, if you will. And when I saw, I think on one of the slides, it said that there was like 319 houses that were surveyed or looked at. I do the neighborhood watch for this neighborhood, and I personally know there is about 220 houses in our neighborhood. And that's the houses that are west of William, east of Fruit, south of the 210 freeway, and north of Foothill, excluding the mobile home parks. So I'm assuming that those figures took into account the mobile home park, which it's not the same as single family houses. Anyway, I again don't want to stop this project, but I feel that the people need some yards. Forget the little parkway and the grills and all that. I don't know that people really use that sort of thing, but make the lots a little larger, allow for some parking for their residents and their friends, and make it a little more compatible with our neighborhood. But in any event, I believe that we all need to come together, the neighbors, the developer, and the city, and come up with a plan that everybody is happy with. We all pay a lot of money for our houses. We are very proud of our neighborhood, and we want to be proud of what goes in there as well. And so that's about all I have to say. And I just want to thank all of you for your time and for taking our calls and listening to our concerns. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Hi, Cynthia. This is Natalie with the City of Laverne. Okay, just a moment. I'm going to connect you with the Planning Commission. All right, and if I could just have you mute your YouTube in the background. Okay, 1 second. Okay, Cynthia, are you there?
I am here.
If you can please state your name.
Cynthia Gabaldon, 2529 Amherst.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us present today. Right off the bat, I just wanted to let the commissioners know that I've had many residents in the past hour text me or send me an email that they were not able to find this a YouTube link, and they are rather upset about that. That's one. Two, there has been no real true transparent outreach by the city to all of us residents in the neighborhood. According to the Sequel website, which I actually looked at yesterday concerning COVID, it actually states that other types of additional outreach really is required at this time. We know we can't have public meetings, but something has to happen. And now that we're going to a lower tier, we have access at the Mormon church to actually have meetings in the parking lot, or even if we have to meet somewhere else outside. The last statement about this, though, is also that we have found out that the project proponent actually reached out to the chamber and sent out an email and a video on the project. No one has ever done that for any of the residents. And we have been going door to door to residents. We have many new people that are living in our neighborhood. And when they found out about that, the only way I can say it is that it was incredibly disrespectful to those of us who have lived in the city, some of us for 30
30+ years to not have any type of outreach to us. On the traffic study completely ignored historical and also future traffic use. We have been asking here, the residents who live on Amherst, have something done about our traffic for at least a decade. This is not the first time this has come up. We're going to have 40-something houses there. It adds up to 168 cars because we're letting 4 cars per home. If you do 4 trips per day, that's 2,688 trips coming out of this new project. Amherst is already impacted. And you even bring that up in the VMT analysis, which we also have to have a correction in that. But the VMT analysis is already saying that we're at a significant level of impact on Amherst. In that analysis, the existing nursery is noted as having 19.5 vehicles there per day, which adds up to 109 per week. And there is no way we have 19 vehicles going back and forth to that nursery every day. We live here. We know where the traffic is. We know who it is. It's closer to 3 or 4. If you fix the math, that means that the total trips per day increase based off of your current VMT values would be 400, not 209. That delta is a huge difference for us on our street. And also something that has been missed again is that the traffic flow from Gary to Smith is again missing in the analysis. And we've been asking for this even before the analysis, which is the historical analysis, which is used in this project for some reason. But it's the work that was done for the Laverne Village project completely missed all the traffic flow from Gary to Smith. Smith is a 1-lane road. If you're going to be adding 2,000+ trips per day that are maybe split between east and west, that little street called Smith is going to get severely impacted. And there are times in there you can't even get 2 cars down that road because when Claremont has their trash day, you actually have to weave through it. And lastly, incremental cumulative impact to date. And other people have already brought up all the other historical projects. We have the Mormon Church. We have Lutheran High School. We have had the Harshorn properties built out. We have the properties up here in Bowden built out. And now we're going to have this. We already have the Laverne Village. And there's coming up another project on Fruit, which is the other old nursery. And all of those cars, because the brand new medians the city built in, all those cars have to make a right, and then they have to make a right on Amherst in order to get down, back, and around the Foothill. Because there's going to be no left turns out of their property. So that's another project that's going to impact our street. That must be looked at differently in that EIR. I do EIRs for a living. I'm actually a registered engineer. I know what has to be done in these traffic impact studies. This study misses a lot. The church and the high school were not even included. And with or without COVID, they need to be included. Weekends were not included. Saturdays and Sundays, because of the Mormon Church, the traffic on our street when they're open significantly multiplies because they have full services. They're at least 2 or 3 a day. Bigger picture, we need to postpone any approval of the zoning change. We must postpone the EIR approval because there's a lot of technical work that needs to be corrected in there. And we must have a meeting because there's plenty of residents who either couldn't even get on today. And there's an entire street called Kimberly that nobody even knew about it. And this does affect all of us. And but you also have a 9-page letter from me that I sent in earlier today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this point, Candace, can you confirm you have not received any other requests? I have not.
All right, we'll take that as a no.
No more.
All right, I want to thank the community members for taking the time to call in today. With no other calls in, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing and move or public comment. and move on to questions from the Planning Commission. Let's start off with Phil. Commissioner May, do you have any questions or comments?
Not at this point, but I might in a minute. Well, let me first state that thank you, Candace, for the detailed presentation and for the applicant as well. I think this is a important project for the city and for providing new housing for young families, and that it is fitting a need that is apparent. But I'll pass at this time.
Okay. Let's move on to Thomas. Commissioner Allison, do you have any questions or comments?
I mean, I just have one. Can the city or the project developers respond to the residents' complaint about the lack of an opportunity to be heard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So as part of the presentation, that second slide with the timeline, that was basically the answer. We went above and beyond. We realized that we couldn't host the community workshop as much as we wanted to. So we notified all of the residents beyond the 500 feet that was required. We created a website for the project. There was a video, there was question and answer. We took all the comments and put them all into a one slide, one document, answered all of the questions that were received from the residents. We've gone above and beyond than what was just required. So I feel like they've been, and we waited for 6 months between when we were going to have the workshop to when we decided to create this website, because we were hoping to be able to do the workshop. So 6 months went by where we finally had to not delay the project anymore and move forward.
So COVID and the restrictions of getting together and all of that stuff was taken into consideration in the city's outreach plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Candace, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to go to something else, but go ahead, Bob.
Well, I was just going to ask Candace if you have information on the number of hits on the project website, because I heard a number today. I don't know.
I think the number that we were talking about was when we released, it was 3,500 people that viewed it on Facebook when we released it on Facebook and Instagram. I'm not aware of the hits on the website. Eric, are you?
I did not know the page views on the website now.
Well, I heard the 3,500 number. I may have misunderstood how that came about. So
that was social media,
that's
but we
significant exposure.
Probably find out.
Okay, let's go ahead and continue with Commissioner Allison's questioning.
Yeah. And so what sort of prejudice would be caused to the project if any more delay were to occur?
Ask the applicant to respond to that one.
Yeah, I'm happy to respond to that one. You know, any further delay in a project in today's environment is potentially significantly impactful. I mean, as Candace pointed out, we really went to great lengths, and we prepared that video, and we had to have a professional video company prepare and edit and come up with the scenes and the presentation for it. And we spent a great deal of time back in October presenting that out. And I've always been open to communication. The only person that's reached out to me, quite honestly, has been Jeff Allred. He reached out to me and we talked about the project, but I've always submitted this project to the city as 42. But I'll say something to you. I've been working on a number of projects over the last several years, and I had 2 projects that were scheduled to be approved in December of 2019. Those projects were delayed. And you know the timing of what happened in 2020. And I don't have confidence in any part of what can happen in the world today. And in 2020, when those projects were delayed, a 2-month delay in those projects caused both of those projects to not happen because COVID-19 came, the world was shut down. And in February and March of 2020, the world got turned upside down. And, you know, time is critical for me. And we've been working on this for 15 months. And so, you know, I feel, and really when it comes down to it, you know, increasing the home sizes to compensate for losing units isn't the answer here. And lowering it by 7 or 8 units isn't the answer either. It's going to be negligible effect on any parts of it, except the impact that it has on the project and the metrics of the project. So, you know, it's important to us. We've gone through the process and we've been very forthright, willing to meet, doing whatever the city asked us. So timing's very critical to us, Planning Commissioner Allison. It really is.
Just one more follow-up question on this one. So Mr. Aldred was one of the callers who asked for more time. You said he reached out to you. Did you respond to him?
I did. I've met with him, yes.
Okay. And I have no further questions. I do want the record, though, to reflect. I don't like the implication that not voting in favor of the project opens the door for a project of lower income to come in. I think at best, it's a dog whistle. At worst, it invites the use of prejudice as a basis for decision making. So I like the project, but I did not like that line of presentation.
Understood.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Let's go down to Commissioner Lords. Jason, are you with us?
I am here, yes, sir. The project, again, bringing needed homes to the community. I think majority are not opposed to it. I mean, from the comments I heard, it was more on the lines of fewer homes, but I do have some concerns in terms of number one being the public workshop that was canceled. And I think nothing beats being in person and being able to have this dialogue, and putting up a website is a good, you know, I guess, attempt at doing that. But even a Zoom meeting would have been better than not doing, you know, the public meeting. So, I mean, the public workshop, I think being, you know, the city of Laverne, obviously I feel sets a standard. I mean, I just don't like the fact that there's so many residents that are voicing their opinion, not in opposition, but just to be heard. And so a 1-month delay in today's market when there's no inventory to begin with, and you're going to create 42 new properties in 1 month, are going to be worth more than they are today. So I don't see where the damage is going to be done at that point. And that brings me to my second topic, is a price point. You know, 700,000 to 800,000, and like one of the callers suggested, average price point now is about 850, and I don't disagree with that. And so, how are we going to hold the price to 700 to 800? Is that going to be a stipulation, or is that we're just going to go with market prices? So by the time this is all done, they could be $1 million homes with the way the market's going. They could be $900,000 homes. Is that how are we dealing with the price point on that?
Matt can go ahead and answer that, but we are definitely not conditioning that the homes are going to be a certain price.
So these homes are priced based on the current market conditions, based on the current prices per square foot in the area for existing homes and new homes. And actually the price per square foot of these units will actually be higher than the average price per square foot that the other homes in the area go for. And we're confident that this will be the ultimate pricing of the units. I mean, as pricing moves, so does cost. I mean, lumber and everything else goes up proportionately, but we're confident that this is the pricing.
Yeah, no, I understood. I mean, obviously I buy in. I like, you know, definitely the idea that they're mid-range. I mean, it's not a you know, a lower priced home. So, but the 700,000 to 800,000, I feel like if that's the marketing around that, it's not going to be 700 to 800 when you get done with the project. I feel it's going to be more 800 to 900, probably high 8s is where it's going to be. And teachers and police, and if this is the market we're going for, I just. But the other thing is the traffic study that was done. it was done during the pandemic. Am I correct on that?
Yes, however, the numbers were taken from previous traffic studies when COVID was not in play. So it doesn't incorporate just when everyone was working from home, when schools weren't out. The actual numbers were taken into consideration.
And what about the caller that suggested that the data for the weekend, Saturday and Sunday in the church and whatnot was not taken into account?
We do have the traffic consultant if you'd like to.
Yes.
Brian? Is it Brian or go ahead?
Yes, this is Brian Crawford again, DNE Group. I prepared the LOS analysis for the project. So regarding the traffic counts, like you guys know, with COVID, it severely impacted traffic. And traffic is a lot less now than it was pre-pandemic conditions. So for the traffic studies, what we try to do is account for pre-pandemic conditions in the assumption that once all this clears away, whenever it happens, traffic will be back to normal at the rate it was prior to the pandemic, think like January 2020. So what we did is we worked in consultation with the city staff. What we try to do is find historical data and use that whenever possible. Obviously, that's not always possible, but in this case, we were able to get, I believe, 4 intersections from 2011 from the Laverne mixed-use traffic impact analysis. So we got those intersections. We didn't recount all the intersections, all 7 intersections that were analyzed. And we compared the 2011 traffic counts with a 1.34% per year growth over a 9-year period to come back up to 2020. Compared those counts to the COVID counts. And we determined that based on that, an adjustment of 79.5, so basically 80% during the AM peak hour and 42% during the PM peak hour was needed to adjust the current counts to be able to combat the COVID condition for basically pre-pandemic conditions. So that's what we did. You know, we took the existing counts, increased them by 80% during the morning peak hour and 42% by the PM peak hour. And that's pretty much standard. That's what we do in every traffic study in Southern California or elsewhere. So that answers question number 1. And as Candace stated, those 2011 counts, those were conducted when schools were in session. You know, the church was in session, you know, all that stuff as well. So all that traffic is captured in there. Regarding weekend counts and stuff like that, it's standard that, you know, we only analyze AM and PM peak hours. Those are the 2 highest generators during a weekday. We have to count either on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday because Monday and Friday can have abnormal traffic, you know, for everyday weekends and whatnot. We only would analyze something on a Sunday or an off-peak hour if the product generator was during that off-peak hour. Think, for instance, a church is normally open on Sundays. Therefore, we would analyze the traffic conditions on a Sunday versus the AM and PM peak hours of a typical weekday. That's uniform throughout the state of California. And it's done because your typical peak hours during the weekday are when the traffic is most intense on the roadway network, not on a Saturday or Sunday. So that's why we analyze those peak hours to conform with city and state standards.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have any more questions. I guess just a statement. I mean, I have some concerns with the traffic study. I have some concerns with the price point. I have a big concern about that public workshop. And I know with the pandemic, we weren't able to meet in person, but I feel like we should have done something more on a Zoom level like we are tonight, at least just to make sure we hear the community in the city. I think the project is a good project because I like the idea of having homes in the area. Majority of the citizens are not opposed to it either from what I've read and what I've heard. It's just the amount of homes that are going into that footprint. I personally think we should have some sort of a public workshop. That's my opinion, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lorch. Phil, I'm going to go back to you. You passed on the first round. Did you want to have anything else?
Yeah. Thank you very much. What is the possibility of a public workshop concept to be calendared or scheduled for the near future? Is there a posting? What is the time frame? I mean, could it be done within 30 days?
Normally for a public workshop, we like to notice about 2 weeks ahead of time. Are you talking about an in-person public workshop?
Well, I'm not sure what would be allowable, but it seems to be conditions are loosening up and there could be, as one caller mentioned, a meeting at the church parking lot. that might be convenient for the residents nearby. I'm just seeing what is the possibility with a time frame and the feasibility. Does the applicant have a comment on that?
I can comment on it. I mean, I'm not, honestly, I'm not interested in postponing and coming back to the planning commission. I am willing between planning commission and city council to plan a meeting with the neighbors, absolutely, and talk to them. I'm quite open to that. But from a timing standpoint, I can't. Delays have killed too many projects for me. They've stopped them in their tracks. They've cost a lot of time and effort to cities and to me. And I have to move forward. But I am happy to meet with them. Absolutely, I'll meet with them prior to March 15th. I would do that. I can work with the city on that. I can work with the neighbors. I can work with Jeff Allred, and we can do it in the parking lot of the Mormon church, as was suggested. And I would meet with them before city council, of course. I'd commit to that.
Thank you. So I might, I don't know how we would word this, but if we put a condition into this, or a recommendation to have the workshop.
I believe we can add something like that into the resolution that you would be recommending tonight. I'm just not sure on the current guidelines if in the next month they're going to allow multiple households to meet, whether it's outside or inside. I'm not sure what the rules are on that. Eric or Bob Kress may know more, but we could explore possible other options. Like I'm not sure how well a Zoom meeting would work. I'm not sure. Eric, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, what we've heard, right, is that people really want the face-to-face, and I'm not sure, nobody's asked for the Zoom meeting. That's a good, I guess, potential middle ground. And I don't know the participation or how that would go. Obviously, people that are interested have access and have heard this discussion, seen the presentation. I don't know that that discussion would resolve any of their concerns or change any part of the project, but being able to listen and have those people and the applicant's willing to meet with them one-on-one, which is completely fine under the current order, provided they do all this stuff. But yeah, gatherings just simply are not allowed in LA County. And so an in-person meeting, I doubt is going to be allowed through county guidelines anytime soon. Even I would guess probably even 6 months from now, just because it's one of those things where they're really trying to stop that from happening. So a Zoom meeting, we definitely would have time to try to schedule in between now and the council meeting, but I don't believe in person could happen. And Bob, you could add to that if you like.
Yeah, that's my understanding is, we're just not there for public gatherings at this point. Even with social distancing, there's still restrictions on the number of people gathering together. And this potentially is more than what would be allowed.
I would also like to add to that, for the last year, basically, the city's had to move on. We have to continue to process projects. The city council's made a lot of important decisions in this meantime through this, unfortunately, the system, the digital system, and we've done every step that we can to try to allow for that engagement with the public. We have projects that are in the pipeline that are a couple months away from you that would basically have the same issue, right? That we're creating websites, we're trying to use social media to get people interested in them, just simply because we can't just put everything on pause until people can get back together, because we don't know when that is. If we had some kind of assurance that would happen in 30 days, then that would definitely be something that we would consider. But with the uncertainty of it, the city actually has some legal requirements to actually continue to process projects when applications are filed. So, like, I just want to mention, the city the city council, the planning commission, you guys continue to make decisions in this environment, unfortunately, without being able to be in the same room with the residents. And so that's probably going to happen for the foreseeable future for now. It doesn't look like there's the end of that road yet.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. Okay. I have a few questions. I want to start off just for the applicant, for Matt. You met with Jeff Allred. That's the person you said is the only person you've met with.
Correct.
Did any of those meetings actually result in a change in the number of houses or consideration of a change in the number of houses?
They didn't.
Meeting in person is not going to change your mind on that either.
It's not going to change my mind on it. No, it's not.
Okay. Candace, I have a question for you. If we're looking at the 5 points, just to review what we had at the beginning, we have a precise plan review, which was approved by DRC, correct? That was one of the, so that's out of our hands tonight. We had the tree removal, which was the second contingency that was part of the DRC, the approval as well, right? Theirs were based on us. So really 3, 4, and 5 are what we're looking at, right? Which is the specific plan zone change, the PRD3 to the specific plan of 8 per acre, the general plan amendment, and then the vesting parcel map, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in the specific plan, the change from PR3D to specific plan 8 is being called or touted as a buffer with because it's going from 8 to 8 to 3, right? So the 8 is a buffer to the 8.
Well,
Can you
it's
pull up
not
the
mobile
map?
homes.
Can you pull up the map really quick of the zoning that you had in your initial presentation? Because I wanted to see that. I think what's got skipped over a little bit was the PRD 4.5, which is basically surrounding the mobile home and the area south of the PR3D.
Give me a second, please.
Sorry, yeah, I know. But I'd like to look at it just to kind of walk through this. I'm just trying to understand. It's a pretty complicated issue, and obviously.
So when I said transition, I meant, yes, it's a very similar density, but it's a mobile home to a single family home with the same density, and then more single family homes.
Right. I understand.
That's what I meant.
It's okay. But you have that map, Eric?
Yeah, I'm getting it right now.
Okay. And just to be clear, the specific plan change is a request for a specific plan. We are in no way obligated to approve a specific plan change, correct? Change to the specific plan from the existing 3.
The specific plan would be required, I believe, for the project to be able to move forward. So if the specific plan is not approved, then the project doesn't happen. They're all contingent on each other.
You had a different one, Eric, that had more of the PR 4.5D around it.
So that's.
Oh, I think that was on Matt's presentation.
Oh, okay.
What do I do here? Sorry. 1 second.
No problem.
This one, right?
It hasn't popped up on my screen yet.
Can't see it.
I promise I'm going to get it right. Here we go.
You've done good so far. There we go. That one's great.
There it is.
So just being clear, the yellow that's below Amherst around the purple is the 4.5, correct?
No, that's 3D. The
Oh, that's 3D
4.5
as
is the
well.
orangish color.
Oh. Okay,
Just a little bit.
got it. Okay, perfect. All right, so the second part is I wanted to show that I agree with Commissioner Allison's kind of comment that came out of Matt, your partner at Larry, kind of putting in the fear that if this doesn't go through, then another project that's going to be worse than this is going to come through. I feel that's a bit out of place for the discussion, because I don't think the neighborhood should feel pressured to accept this based on it could get worse. I mean, I think the ideal of the neighborhood is let's make it best for Laverne, you know, and that's really what the people seem to be asking for. And it seems to be at a standstill, really. So, I mean, if we recommended approval of these, it's just going to take the fight to council and probably gain more community complaints and uprising on this thing. And I don't know how comfortable I feel with that. Just based on comments from the community at this point.
Can I have an
with
opportunity?
the statement that you'd be willing to listen to them, but it would be no effect potentially for any type of change to the plan. Obviously, due to time, I understand it's a business decision on your point, but the community is not going to get any change from your stance on this, which.
Can I respond just to the comment about the affordable housing comment that was made? This is just the only reason that comment was made. It wasn't made trying to show that this is the worst case scenario that would happen. The comment was made because it's a fact. It's a fact. It's happening in all the cities throughout Southern California, and it's happening all throughout LA County. The state is really coming down hard on it, and it's just a fact. But it wasn't. I think you're misinterpreting. What we were trying to say was this is a project that really fits in with the community. We don't think, my opinion, I'm strongly saying to you that the difference of 7, 8, or 9 units is not such an impact on this neighborhood that this project shouldn't go forward when balanced with what this project brings to the community in the way of housing and young families. And that is really the crux of the whole point of what's before you guys tonight is, you know, if you looked, and I've researched and looked at aerials of this area back 30, 40 years ago, I do every bit of research on a site. If you looked at this street of Amherst 40 years ago, it was all 5-acre zoned agricultural properties. So nobody would be even on this phone call tonight if the Planning Commission and City Councils hadn't taken the necessary action to put in all of those cul-de-sacs, which at times seemed extraordinary probably to the people that were living there in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, that they were going to put 5 homes on an acre or 4 homes on an acre. That seemed extraordinary to them when they were putting 1 home on 2 to 5 acres. And it's just the natural progression of life, of development in the cities. They need to grow. And that's what we're here before you with this project for tonight. I mean, it's clear without question that this is going to appeal to young families, which are the lifeblood of your community. And I just can't believe that we're going to come down to a point where the project may not go forward over 7 or 8 or 9 units, which is really where we're at. This is an amazing project for the community. And there are extraordinary.
So the future is going to be density, and the community just has to accept that. Is what I got out of that. So the future is going to be higher density, and the community in that neighborhood just needs to accept that.
I'd like to respond to that because I was okay with leaving well enough alone, but to double down on the fact that low income means you don't fit in with this community makes no sense. And I think it's prejudicial. As somebody who grew up poor and would consider myself a part of this community, I reject that perception of what fits into this community, especially considering if the residents are happy with 33 units, 1 of them or 2 of them being low income and they're great neighbors, that might fit into the community better than just assuming that because you make a certain income that you're going to fit better into this community. right? So again, I was okay leaving well enough alone. It's a dog whistle. It's an invitation to use prejudice as a basis for decision making, and it's inappropriate.
I wasn't, Commissioner Allison, I wasn't trying to imply that in any way,
I
shape,
know
or
you're not
form.
trying to imply it, but like I said, it's a dog whistle and it's lazy language that sends a message that in this community, we don't appreciate low-income earners.
Oh,
If
no,
I'm a
that's not what
low-income earner watching this and I hear a developer tell the commission, the planning commission, that this development fits into the city because it's not low income or it's not high density, you know, stuff that attracts poor people, then I'm going to assume that Laverne is a community that is harsh toward poor people. And that is not a message that I want this planning commission to send.
That's not the message I was trying to convey.
Well, it's
That's
the
not
message
I was
that
trying
is
to
conveyed.
I simply have stated throughout the beginning to this that this project was geared towards families to come in and join and become a part of the fabric of the community of Laverne. That's all I was saying. The only discussion of the affordable component came in when it talks about how the property has to be dealt with in the future potentially. That's all that it was. What I'm saying is this design.
Exception to that part. Everything else was okay. You had me at hello. I love the video. There's a Black couple in it. I love the diversity. Everything was great, right? But that implication, and I need you to stop talking and actually listen to this, because this is something that you obviously not been exposed to. It's offensive. And the only thing to say is that's not what I meant. I apologize. Let's move on. But to double down on the comment means I'm going to double down.
I got it. That's not what I meant. So I do apologize if that's the way it came across. Definitely.
Thank you.
All right. So,
Mr. Chair, I do want to let you know that we received email requests for you to reopen the public hearing from Ms. Galvadon, who wants to try to respond to comments that were made after the public hearing was closed. So that's up to your discretion, but we'd have to recall and all that.
no, absolutely. We've done that before to the 5G issue. I think it wouldn't be a new precedent being set. So I think that would be fair. I mean, obviously, the concern of the community is pretty big there, and to not let them respond to. If the commissioners are okay with it, I'd just go ahead and open up the public comment.
I believe Danita also wanted a call.
Okay, let's try to keep the comments down to about the 3-minute standard limit, if possible.
Hi, Cynthia. Hi there, it's Natalie calling from City of Laverne. Okay, I'm going to connect you in just a moment. Okay, if you can please state your name.
This is Cynthia Gabaldon, 2529 Amherst. Just a few of just some notes that I've been picking up on from here. We really need to have a public meeting. And I think that this neighborhood, because we are very well organized here, I think we could do it in the parking lot over there at the church. Many of us know them over there. They let us use their facilities in the past, and we could probably do it in sets of groups of people and do chairs, or have people bring their lawn chairs out to the parking lot, and we can be separated, and we could figure out how to do all that. That's one thing. But one of the other things that was pointed out is that there were many assumptions made for that traffic study, especially for the historical 2011 document. In that 2011 document, 10 years ago, this neighborhood brought up all the problems with that old document. Using it as the historical basis for this project also is against CEQA, and we have to follow CEQA here. There are no cumulative impacts included in there at all, especially in the old historical one. None of the new projects locally here are even addressed, and you have to do that in CEQA. There is no data in there on weekends. I just went back and double checked. Sundays, the LDS church isn't even brought up in it. These issues need to be looked at. And I don't even know if going down to 33 homes is really gonna make everybody in here happy, but we've gotta have a meeting. Just everything I'm hearing right now is just dumbfounding to me. And I'm sorry, but expecting a bunch of older people, the seniors in the park over here, expecting them to go online and be able to figure out how to use this Zoom meeting. I must have 14 texts and emails from people in neighborhoods who could never get on tonight. We've got to do something in person. And it is very disrespectful to all of us who are watching, and there's one person videotaping it who we're just dumbfounded by some of these comments back. The residents need to be involved. We have not had the opportunity to actually really be involved. You cannot expect people who don't do CEQA and planning for a living to understand what they read online. If they're able to find it online, to actually understand what all this means with zoning laws and density. You've got to do a meeting in person. And I don't know, that's it. Thank you. I wasn't expecting to actually get a call back, so thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you. Hi, David. It's Natalie calling from City of Warren. Hi. In just a moment, I'll connect you. You're welcome. Okay, if you can please state your name.
Anita Beauchamp. I live at 2516 Amherst Street.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking my call a second time. The fact that we're discussing the EIR using the traffic study from 2011 is a problem of it in itself. The Laverne Village was not constructed at that time, so that traffic was not factored into those numbers. As Christina Donahue from Rincon talked at the DRC meeting, she said that she used the 2011 historical study, but also used traffic cams to determine the increase in traffic since that time. There are no traffic cams on these residential streets. They're on Foothill Boulevard and Fruit Street. They're not on Amherst. They're not on Bradford. They're not on Bowdoin. These are the intersections that are going to be adjacent to this project. They have to be factored in. The reopening of Bowdoin is another issue that needs to be addressed. I realize that's on the city council meeting for 3-1, and they're treating it as a separate issue, but it shouldn't be. They're tied together. We were promised, the residents were promised that when the Laverne Village was going to be built, that street would be reopened. It never happened. Amherst cannot take on this additional traffic without other mitigation solutions being presented. And there are none. The only thing that it discusses in there is a proposed signal at the intersection of Amherst and Fruit. And right now, the signal at Bowdoin and Fruit, when there's a red light for east-west traffic, those cars back up, preventing residents from pulling out of their driveways or pulling into their driveways. Amherst would then suffer the same fate. The residents on Hartshorn Ranch and Oakleaf wouldn't be able to even turn out of their street because the traffic would back up so far. And as Cynthia mentioned in her previous comment, there's a proposed housing project to be scheduled to go onto Fruit Street. With this new median that the city built, there's no egress for them to turn left. So that would force traffic to come down Amherst. So that's another traffic issue that is not taken into consideration. So these cumulative impacts also have to be considered. I feel that we do need a public meeting to accommodate those that are not tech savvy and cannot navigate the internet. They may not even have the internet. But again, like Cynthia said, they don't understand the legality and the legalese of these reports that are presented to the city and the planning commission for decisions to be made. It needs to be explained to them in a very simple, understanding way, not being derogatory or degrading, but in a way that they can understand. And how is it going to directly affect them? The zoning for this area, that the comparison was done when Chairman Simpson asked to go back to that chart, that zoning 425 was such a small area, yet the majority of the area is PR3D. How can you make that comparison for that such a small area? I just feel like that shouldn't even been into consideration. And you can't, as Denise said, it's not comparing apples to apples. You can't compare mobile homes density at 8 units, again, single story, not 2-story, and they're on in their own neighborhood with a controlled entrance and exit. So I think more than just having a public meeting, I think a new traffic study needs to be conducted with this developer or any new developer should this one fall through. There were 3 other, bids that were, or proposals that were offered. So I don't understand if this one should fall through, then, there should be another person in line to want to propose who would probably be okay with 33 houses. But these are just things that the residents are really affected by, especially what Mr. Lords talked about with the pricing. I have a hard time believing that a first-time buyer can afford an $800,000 house. Because if that was the case, they would buy the existing homes that are already for sale. There's a house for sale, 868 on Nokdale Circle. I believe it's his list. There's another one that sold for 820, another one that sold for 804. If that was the range of new families buying, they would buy existing, not to buy new. To have the more land, to have the additional square footage on their lots. I just think that it's very disrespectful to all of the residents, especially like Cynthia said, many of us have been here 30 plus years and we're not even being given the time of day. I didn't know anything about this. I found it by complete chance on the agenda for the city. I was the one who took personal responsibility and created a flyer. I walked door to door as Denise Fisher assisted me, explaining this to the residents, telling them what was really going on. The city didn't do anything about it. And then when people started sending in comments or calling, they were told that there was misinformation. We were never told what the misinformation was. According to AB 2345 and AB 725, new housing projects have to have a certain percentage of low income and medium income housing. So just like Laverne Village, there's 10% of those units that are rented to Section 8 assisted housing people. I used to do property management. I'm very familiar with the whole as well. So I really ask that the commission just please table this measure until more information can be provided to the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
No other emails received.
No other emails or phone calls?
Correct.
Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and reclose the public comment and open it back up for another round with commissioners. This time, let's start with Commissioner Lorge. Do you have any additional comments or questions?
My questions are still the same. Not really another question, but just, I guess I have a question in regards to the traffic study, because I was thinking 2011 data being used and not inclusive of some of the development that's gone on since then. I mean, what would it entail to go ahead and do another traffic study? Because I think that's a huge concern of the residents. And obviously, Matt, if the traffic study proves that there is no issue, right, using current data, then, I mean, are we just going to get the same results because of the pandemic and we're still going to, I mean, is there a way to do a current traffic study, I guess is my question.
This is Brian Crawford again with Gandini Group. The short answer to the question is yes, we're going to end up having the same data. The problem we have is, with the pandemic is it skews all the traffic count data. So we had to go back and look for historical data that we can then compare to existing data to factor a growth rate that we were going to then apply to the current data to bring the traffic, to artificially increase traffic numbers to what we believe they would have been prior to the pandemic. So we needed that baseline, and the city provided us with those 4 traffic counts from the 2011 traffic study. Like I said, we applied a growth factor from the Los Angeles County CMP, an annual growth factor each year to bring those up to 2020, compared those then to the existing 2020 counts, and increase the existing 2020 counts for all 7 intersections by 80% during the AM peak hour and 42% by the PM peak hour. So those were the adjustments that were made to the existing counts to account for COVID. because, you know, we know traffic is less now than it was before, but we don't know what it was before without the data. And the only data we have going back from now into the future or into the past is from those 2011 traffic counts. We don't have any other data. If we had more recent data, we would use it. And we apply those annual ambient growth factors to account for additional traffic from 2011 up to 2020 as well.
Brian, do you have any thoughts on the comment made by the community that the traffic study in 2011 had flaws?
No, we didn't. I mean, I can't really comment on it. I haven't looked through that traffic study enough to make that comment, and we were just using the traffic count data from it. So, you know, I didn't, you know, look into that traffic study and fully, you know, evaluate it or anything like that.
So it could be wrong.
Well, the traffic count data won't be wrong. The traffic count data is just from the traffic count companies. You just go out there, and that kind of applies to the statement that was made about the traffic cams. I believe when Christine was discussing that, well, what we do when we order traffic counts, we call a traffic count company that does this. They go out to the intersections during the peak hours prior to it. They set up traffic cameras out there, let them play, record all the data, come back the next day, pick up the cameras, take them back to our processing facility, and you know, process it and get the data back to us as far as how many vehicles made the different movements during the peak hours. So that's how that's collected. We're not using, you know, any permanent traffic cams on any roadways that are viewable by the public or anything like that.
So those traffic cams were used for this study?
Yeah, they use traffic cameras now. They used to go out there and have physical people in the field, you know, that have a board and they, you know, punch it into every car they see. Now it's more accurate and easier just to set up a camera out there, you know, go collect it later and watch the video and do it that way.
So that was done for this one though?
Yes, it was done for all 7 intersections that we analyzed in this analysis.
Okay. Thanks. Just want to be clear.
Oh, thank you.
This is Christine Donahue. If I could just add on, Brian, I think it would be helpful if you could also speak to, there's a lot of concerns about cumulative impacts. Explain that, you know, cumulative impacts were also evaluated for the project and are accounted for in the traffic capacity study.
Yes. So when we initially did the traffic study, we scoped it with city staff, the city traffic engineer, I think we used contract staff, city planning, you know, in different departments, sent a scoping agreement, which showed, you know, what the product trip generation was, what the trip distribution is, what the intersections we're looking to analyze are, the analysis scenarios, got input back from staff, you know, made whatever bridges necessary. We submitted it, got it approved, and worked on the traffic study. As far as cumulative stuff is concerned, that was also, you know, provided by city planning, the city planning department regarding any cumulative projects in the area at the time, you know, that we were doing the traffic study back in August. Then we also did a year 2040 analysis, which is a build out analysis, and we applied that same LACMP growth rate, you know, over 20 years. To conduct the year 2040 analysis, and that includes, you know, 20 years of growth, you know, on the roadway network. So that also counts. That's the build out analysis that accounts for all projected cumulative traffic.
And then just one more point on traffic. The city then also peer reviews. They do their own review of the traffic study that's prepared on behalf of the city. So you have a city reviewer as well. Your city engineer looks at that too.
Correct. They reviewed the traffic study, you know, had any comments. We didn't revise the traffic study and we submitted it for their approval. Another kind of thing to note on that as well, because, you know, things have kind of been changing, you know, in CEQA land over the last year. July 1st, 2020 is when SB 743 came to in effect. That's when for traffic, LOS analysis no longer applies. It's only VMT. A different consultant prepared a VMT analysis, but most jurisdictions have determined that, you know, they still want an LOS analysis, even though it's not required by CEQA, because VMT does not do a good job. I mean, it doesn't analyze your roadway network, doesn't analyze the intersections to determine, you know, how they're operating or whatnot, whereas LOS analysis did. So that's why we conducted the LOS analysis, even though it's not a CEQA required document.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lorge, any other comments before we move on?
Just a clarification on the VMT. You said it does not, or was that that was the other one? Which one does not include the intersections and what you're just talking about?
VMT would not include the intersection analysis. VMT is just looking at vehicle miles traveled, which is basically the distance from the project to like the work related instances, and multiplying that by the number of trips, and that computes the vehicles mile traveled for a project. The LOS analysis does a focus in analysis of the surrounding roadway network. That includes the intersection analysis, a roadway segment analysis, and anything like that that's tailored to a particular region.
Right, and I know it's not required, but it seems to be that the one that the residents are looking for is the more inclusive one that does include the intersections, and we're looking at VMT that doesn't, right?
We're looking at both. You know, like I said, I think Kittleson did the VMT analysis. We did the LOS analysis. I agree with the community that the LOS analysis is important, and that jurisdictions should still require it, as Laverne does, because that is taking a look at the surrounding community from the operational aspect of how are the intersections operating, how are the roadway segments operating, how are they going to operate with project and cumulative traffic in the future, and what mitigation is necessary if they're not operating at a satisfactory level.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to Commissioner Allison. Do you have any final thoughts or comments?
No questions or anything, but I do think procedural justice is important. And it appears that there are some answers that the community still needs. So I would just indicate my preference for conditioning approval on there being some sort of community meeting between now and when the final decision is going to be made by the council.
Thank you. Phil?
I don't have any other questions at this time.
All right. On my side, I agree. And Bob, maybe you can help us with the logistics of conditioning approval on a meeting taking place, regardless of the outcome. I agree. The community's absolutely in a position where I know COVID hurt the developer. The developer's in a situation where these approvals got delayed, the meetings got delayed, everything's sitting through, and it's a business venture. And yeah, it could fall apart if you wait any longer. Who knows what tomorrow's going to bring? And it's not really fair for him to have to deal with the COVID situation. But on the other side, it really isn't the community's problem to deal with the COVID situation. I mean, they should be given the right to, voice their opinions, be heard. It's going to be a part of their community. When the developer's done building these, when you're done building these, you're not going to live there. You're going to go away. And they're beautiful houses. I think everybody agrees that the architecture is nice, but the density is in question. The traffic study seems flawed. And it seems like there could be additional information. I'm at a loss. I'm not an expert in that field, but I think there's still items that need to be discussed, and if anything, brought to light for council to make final decision on approval. I think the 4.5 density is more appropriate for the neighborhood if you're gonna up density. But
what do I need to do? Do I just leave and leave it unlocked? Because I don't.
Who's Jim?
I think we were just pocket dialed.
Yeah. So you know what, Bob? That's perfect timing. What kind of suggestions could you have? Because I think it seems like the commission's fairly united here, that they're concerned for these are our neighbors. These are the people in our community, and to ignore them and make them feel like they've been railroaded on this is not something that any of us, I think, want to do at all. We'd rather, I think, not approve any of it than move forward without the neighborhood feeling, on board, or at least given a voice.
Well, understood. The Bowdoin issue is on the city council's Monday night, March the 1st agenda. So they are getting a staff report this coming Monday night, laying out the long history of the closure, and basically asking them if they would like to consider opening the street. It would require more traffic analysis and reports and analysis that would come back. So they're being asked Monday night, are you open to this? Do you want to direct staff to further research this? So that's the one issue. The matter is presently scheduled. The applications that you're looking at tonight are presently scheduled for council consideration on March the 15th. So if you want to move forward tonight and make the recommendations or to the city council that staff has recommended to you and development review committee, you could add a requirement that the developer in concert with city staff hold a community meeting prior to March 15th, meeting all required state and county health orders, to present the project and hear concerns. I mean, that's kind of, I think, the only option you have if you're going to take action tonight and require such a meeting.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a, you want to repeat the motion, go through it? Because Bob, you did a great job putting out that motion, but if we walk through the language on it, but do I have a second?
Jason, hold on. I just want to clarify one thing, if I could.
Okay, let's hold on that. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Jason.
Bob, if you said that's our only option tonight. Is that what I heard you say?
No, I think what I said, or what I meant to say at least, was if you're going to move forward tonight.
Okay, so is there another way to get a meeting between the residents and the developer without accepting tonight?
Without what?
Without approving tonight?
Without recommendations.
Is there another way to get a meeting between the residents and the developer without making a recommendation of approval tonight?
Well, I guess what you're saying is, can you just take no action and direct that happen?
I guess I want a meeting between the developer and the residents, and the only way I'm hearing to do that is to recommend approval and make that a condition of approval. Am I incorrect?
Well, that's, I prefaced what I said is, if the commission wants to follow the staff recommendation and the DRC recommendation, that would be the way to do it. Now, if you don't want to follow those recommendations, I mean, you can continue this matter to your next meeting, and that will throw off the schedule and perhaps impact the project. But I mean, you've heard those issues, and that's for you guys to decide.
Yeah, I think there's a question still with density, and there's a question with the traffic report. So approval with just having a meeting to have a meeting, to me, doesn't make much sense.
Well, you're not going to get, you're not going to get a new traffic study. I mean, at this point.
And the developer will have the meeting, but he's already conceded that the project isn't going to work without his 42 units, correct?
That's what he said.
Yeah. So if we don't like the conditions of approval, then we just recommend not recommending it, right? We just either table it and let it sit, or we deny it. Are those kind of the other two options, Bob?
Yep. I mean, you could continue it. You can recommend that the city council not approve the zone change, the vesting tentative map, and the general plan amendment.
Okay.
That's
Just trying to get to where Jason was at, looking at the options that were available.
Right.
So it's clear.
I do also want to just clarify so everyone understands, any meeting would have to happen virtually on Zoom. There's no option of, you heard the last speakers that said that wouldn't work for them if they wanted to have it in person, and that's not possible under the county order. It's not legal. So the city could not participate or hold any such meeting under the current county orders. So what we're talking about, any potential community meeting would be virtually. So I just want to make that clear too.
On my side, I'd hate to deny the project. I think development is needed there, but I just feel like there's not enough information. There's a lot of questions still out there, so I have a hard time recommending. I mean, continuing it for another meeting to get more information, more public opinion on it seems reasonable. But maybe we could tie that to an actual duration instead of an indefinite duration when COVID's going to be gone. Commissioner Allison, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I wouldn't vote in favor of that just because I think the city and the city staff did what they went above and beyond to make themselves available, the video, the website. And so I'd be concerned with the precedent that would be set if we stopped it and then had no recourse. So I would be in favor of recommending approval, but making that contingent upon the public hearing. And I do think that there's more to be done at the public hearing than just empty rhetoric. I think some members of the community need to be educated on some of the facts that that are known. Like the caller said, they're not experts. I'm not an expert. And so for the simple fact of education and the opportunity to be heard on that education, I would contingent my approval on that public hearing, but I wouldn't stall the project to do so.
Thank you. Commissioner May, do you have any thoughts on where we're going?
Yeah, I think that I'm kind of tagging on with what Thomas just mentioned, that we've gone through the due diligence. Some people, I think, in the public had not engaged with the opportunities that were presented previously. And it's always easy to circle back and say, well, I didn't know. But I think the postings, the notifications went beyond. They went to 800 feet, I believe, Candace, and that's a strong effort. And so I think that it's tricky to key our decision to a future meeting. It seems a little backwards. So I think from my perspective, we either vote to approve or deny parts of this, because there are several pieces of this project. And at that point, move forward.
Okay. Phil, what parts could be separated out on the approve or denial? I'm looking at 3, 4, and 5, and they're all pretty much tied together and dependent on one another. I think, which is the the zone change, the general plan amendment, and the vesting parcel map, those all have.
Yeah, I mean, it is,
right?
it is pretty much together. Yeah, I mean, there are pieces of this application,
Mhm.
but I don't think it's possible to break it apart, actually.
Yeah, no, I don't.
It's all or nothing. And I think that Thomas mentioned the precedent of approving a project and then have a public meeting to get more information. I think that's a little tricky, and
yeah.
I don't like how that
I think
sits.
just for the mere fact of education in the community, like you mentioned, I think we need to delay and have that public meeting so we're not doing it backwards. And so there is some education and there is some question and answer period. If it is through Zoom, it's through Zoom. If they don't have technology, if they're safe, they could go into a house that has Zoom. I think we need to have that before we approve. I mean, that's just me.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
And that way we're not doing it backwards. That way we're doing it the right way. We're getting the community, we're educating them, we're answering questions, and now we make our decision.
And
Just a reminder, this is a recommendation, so you're not technically approving or denying the project, right?
Correct.
The city council's responsibility, so it is a recommendation, not an approval.
That's right.
Okay, that does change the perspective a little bit.
And I guess my decision is also partly based on whether or not I think my decision would be changed on a different traffic study or different outcomes of information. And I don't think it would. I mean, I did go sit up on the block for a few hours this month, got some work done, but I was pretty attentive. And so I do think that there is some credibility behind the fear of increased traffic. But I just don't think that the impact of it is as significant enough to make me not vote for it. Not to say that they're not legitimate, because I think the concerns are, but it wouldn't change my vote.
Okay.
I wanted to add one thing, and,
Sure.
and I've done a lot of analysis in the past year with traffic and our society. And I think that we are not returning to business as usual. I think a lot of people are going to be working at home that were not working at home in 2019, and that the traffic will be different, but it will not be as large as some extrapolations could predict.
Thank you for the observation. You got a point there. All right, so just to recap, we've gone away from the idea of recommending with a stipulation that there's a community meeting, and just gone to recommendation or denial at this point, or do we still want to, are we still working that recommendation with the idea that there would be contingent on a, or conditioned on a community meeting via Zoom,
My
obviously?
recommendation is we postpone our decision until there is a community meeting. That's my recommendation.
What's your recommendation?
Officially, Thomas did make a motion. Does that have to be handled or dealt with?
Well, it didn't get seconded, so it kind of.
I thought Phil did second. Didn't you, Phil? No.
I did not second.
There's no second on it. We continued the discussion.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to postpone the decision on this project.
Do I have a second?
Well, hold on. You know, this is a notice public hearing, and if you're thinking that you might get more input, then you should reopen the public hearing and continue it to a date certain, whether that's your next meeting or some other date, so that all the noticing doesn't have to be done again.
Okay.
That sounds right.
But we're gonna have to notice them about any kind of virtual workshop if that's your direction. So in that sense, and your next regular meeting's like in 2 weeks, so there's not gonna be enough time to make your next regular meeting. And so that would then potentially push this to your April meeting, which just means that this wouldn't go to the city council until June at the earliest.
May
Sure. Please.
may I speak?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. I am very open to moving forward with a community meeting. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever with outreach to the community. We have studied this traffic beyond what should have been studied for this project, and with the newly adopted VMT analysis, more significantly than projects previous to this year. And in addition to that, on March 1st, as Bob indicated, on March 1st, this whole matter of the traffic, which is really unrelated to my specific project and more related to what's going on Bowdoin and some of the things that have happened in the past, they're studying that and they're asking the city council to study it to look into the future of that. So the traffic has been studied ad nauseum and it's going to be studied again. I am happy to meet with the community, but I guess my question to you, Bob, is honestly, time has impacted my business more than you can ever imagine. This community has been notified about this project through all the regulations of the state and the city and in well enhanced above what was required. They've known about this project for months. And I have to deal with this in community after community where they come in the 11th hour with 2 weeks to go and they present these concerns about the project, and I'm supposed to go back to the drawing board and meet with them when I've acted in good faith and spent an enormous amount of resources to get the project to this point. I respect their concerns. I want to meet with them and I will talk with them about it. The traffic is, that ship has sailed as it pertains to the study of this project, but it hasn't as it pertains to the area as a whole. And that's what the council's taking up on March 1st. I'm happy to meet with them. My question to Bob is, am I able to just request, if this planning commission doesn't see the value of this project, in my opinion, I'd rather have them vote against the project. And it's a recommendation and it is what it is. It's not what my hope for this meeting was, but I simply can't be delayed until June or July. So I can come into another situation where I spent a year and a half, 2 years working on a project and spent an enormous amount of money to be at a point where the project is no longer feasible for me. And I've been there. It's happened to me in the last few years. And quite honestly, I'd rather go that route if that's the way it has to go. And I appreciate all the commissioners' comments tonight. I really do. And with all due respect, I'm just saying I can't continue to have projects delayed. This is a recommendation. And so I don't feel the traffic is something that needs to be studied more.
All right. Well, I think you just made that request and the commission can decide whether or not they tonight want to vote this recommendation up or down, or whether you want to continue it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say one more comment. I think traffic is important, but I think it's more than just traffic as well. It's the zoning issue, Matt. It's the lot sizes. It's not. I mean, you're comparing an $850,000 house on a lot that is next door is 150,000 mobile home. I mean, so the zoning to me is not symmetric, you know, with the neighborhood. I mean, that I want a development there. I want a project there. I love what you're doing. The architecture is beautiful. So it's not that I'm not for it. I just feel like we have to. I feel because of the pandemic, and it just happened to be that you're coming in at a time that is very unique for everybody. I feel it's also affected the community, and they just need to make sure they have their voice heard. And if it gets pushed back to June, I hope it doesn't. But I think it's more than just traffic, though. Is my whole point.
I respect that opinion, but like I said, I prefer moving forward to council in March on schedule with the denial, if that's what it means.
Okay, any other comments from the commission? I think the applicant's made his point. It seems pretty straightforward. Do I have a motion from any of the commissioners?
I mean, my recommendation, my motion would be recommending that we postpone until we have a community meeting. It's the same as before.
And Bob, you said if we did that, we'd want to set a specific date, correct?
Correct.
So would you say for our next regular meeting, and Eric, it's not at all possible to have that advertisement by our next meeting in 2 weeks?
We have to get the notices out and mailing, and then that's not giving the residents a fair amount of time to schedule to be on the Zoom call, and where we would be able to at your next meeting in your staff report, which basically you would get next week for the following Wednesday's meeting. We wouldn't have time to, tell you that story and have that meeting before next Wednesday, a week from now. So it really is impossible. We could try to schedule a special meeting, but that's also complicated because we have to consult on our calendars to see who's available when, and I don't have that answer to you for you tonight, right? So,
okay, thank you, Eric. So in light of that, that's going to push it a month. The applicant's made it clear that he'd prefer a denial to a continuance on this. So at least he can get to council in a timely manner, correct? So does anybody from the commission want to make a motion on denial or approval? Or a second on the continuation, and the continuation date being set for the regular meeting of the planning commission in April?
Well, I'm still sensitive to the timing and the due process that has been done. So I would be voting in favor of approval. I still think the contingency is important. So my position is unchanged.
Okay. Phil, where do you stand on the issue?
Well, thinking about it, kind of agree with Thomas that our whole thing tonight is just a recommendation to City Council. They're going to make the final decision.
Right. It's a recommendation that we think the project's a good idea. 100%. Yes.
I'd be willing to make a motion to approve the.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Hold on 1 second. Nally does have the new protocol. Nally does have to do a roll call vote, so she'll ask each one of you individually for your official vote on this motion.
Commissioner Lorge?
Yep, muted.
Nay.
And would this approval be contingent with the contingency, just to be clear before we vote it, that there's a meeting prior to the council?
Well, I wasn't part of the motion. I thought you kind of moved on from that.
Right, except I want to make sure that Commissioner Allison, who seemed that he was still pretty interested in that meeting.
Yeah, I would ask for a friendly amendment to add the meeting.
Okay.
Prior to council consideration.
Correct.
Yes.
So Phil, you made the initial motion, so you agree with that modification?
Yeah, let's say that it's contingent on the future meeting.
And then Thomas, you second that?
A second.
Okay, now you'll now take roll call on that motion.
Commissioner Lorge?
No.
Commissioner Allison?
Yay.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
And Chairperson Simison?
No.
So Bob?
Well, this is kind of what happens when you've got four. You know, do you want to send it forward to the council saying that the commission was unable to agree on a recommendation, and let the council decide? Or do you want this to come back to you in April? I think that's the question at this point.
Well, if we send it to the council unable to decide, that does away with the contingency that Commissioner Allison and May added, right?
Well, I think you could make that, you know, a separate motion to the developer, and I think he would probably take that seriously.
Yeah, staff will plan to do that, right? We don't need your motion for that. We've heard you, and we hear that that's a consensus, at least amongst the four of you, that you want that. You want us to have some kind of virtual meeting with the neighborhood before council. So staff will be doing that, regardless on what your decision is otherwise.
Okay.
So if I withdraw that amendment, does that change your vote, Jason?
No, I want the meeting. I just think that moving it forward without the meeting takes a lot less of the onus off the developer to consider the community, and it just becomes a show. He already commented that he wasn't really interested in changing his plan. It's all in or all out for him. So the meeting's pretty much pointless. That's my gut feeling, and no disrespect to the developer. It's a business decision on his point too. I understand his stance, but I feel the community deserves more than that. And timeliness or untimeliness of their responses. Still our community. I think the density is too high, personally.
So Bob, would it be appropriate to have potentially somebody make a motion either to, again, a different motion to continue this planning commission meeting, or to pass along the message to the city council that you were unable to come to agreement, but that there will be a community workshop before it gets scheduled before a city council meeting, so that the applicant's schedule can continue to progress on schedule.
Yes, one of those two motions.
So somebody needs to make that motion, or one of those motions.
Can we get a consensus from the commissioners? Just go through the numbers one more time, starting with Commissioner May.
I would like some clarification on what Eric just said again. It was a little unclear. That, please.
You could make the motion that you send the message along to the city council this planning commission was unable to come to a consensus on a recommendation. And that'll be then it won't come back to you.
Right.
Another hearing, it'll go on with that message and we'll have the public comment. Or you could recommend that you continue reopen the public hearing and continue it, have the meeting, and then schedule it again for some future date planning commission meeting.
Got it. So I would like to make a motion to continue this at a future date.
Our next regular meeting.
Our next regular meeting, yes.
Well, you can't do your next regular meeting.
That's
You've
right.
been through that.
Sorry.
So we just say at a future date?
Well, again, it's much better.
The April meeting, not the next regular meeting. The next available would be the April, correct? After the next one, because advertisement wouldn't be possible by the March.
Right.
I think I want to reword what I said. I want to say that we are unable to come to a consensus on this.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Good. So Natalie votes.
Okay.
All right, Natalie.
Commissioner LaLarge,
No.
Commissioner Allison,
Aye.
Commissioner May,
Yes.
Chairperson Simonson,
I'm still not ready to know.
Well,
Can we make a motion to continue to a future date? I'd like to make a motion to continue to a future date.
I'll second that.
all right, so the motion would be to reopen the public hearing, continue it to April 14th.
Can we not just have a special meeting at some other, later in March, basically, once we can coordinate the schedules. We have to send a notice out. Telling them about the virtual workshop anyways. We can include that date then.
That's
So
fine. I was just trying to make it easier, but
I'd rather not push it out to April if we don't have to.
And am I able to ask any more
no,
questions? Or
no.
Okay. It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. I don't know, but okay.
So there's a motion and a second on reopening the hearing and continuing it to a future special meeting date. Now you'll go.
Commissioner Lord,
Yes.
Commissioner Allison,
No.
Commissioner May,
Muted.
Yes.
Chairperson Simonson,
Yes.
All right, so that's the item's been continued officially. Staff will work with you to try to identify a date for a special meeting. In the meantime, schedule a virtual workshop with the neighborhood and the developer. And that's what that vote meant.
Thank you, Eric. We'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. It is 9:08. The next regular meeting will be held on March 10th. Thank you, everybody online and everybody participating. Appreciate your time and commitment to this issue.